Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 4.19, and in this lesson we're going to be taking a look at the XY effect container that comes with Bitwig Studio. Now, based on everything else we've covered, it only should take us a couple of minutes to go over this XY effect. Really, the XY effect is the ultimate container for everything we've already covered. And in the scope of your own productions, this thing is going to be super powerful. And I think where this is really going to shine in the future as more people start to move over and working with Bitwig is in live performance. And I'll explain that to you first, and then maybe we'll go back and just talk about it in more of a traditional way for your track. So typically, if you're going to be working in a DAW, if you're working in Ableton Live or you're working in Bitwig to do your live performance, you have to set up a ton of send returns or a ton of effect tracks. So this would be 4 effects. I mean, maybe drop a chorus here, a reverb here, a flange delay here, and distortion here. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that for each track, you somehow need to have enough knobs to send to all of these places. And usually that is very difficult and not really all that practical. And so you'll constantly have to do a lot of rerouting, reworking, unless you have like an iPad or something you can use to control all of those send levels relatively easily. Well, I don't have an iPad, so how am I going to do that? How am I going to be able to do this quickly and efficiently? I really can't. I can't do it this way. But with this XY effect, what I'm going to be able to do is create 4 different effects and control them all from 2 knobs, and plus a 3rd knob for send amount, but that's besides the point. So let me just make sure I have my MIDI controller hooked up. Not 100% I do. Doesn't seem to be working. So we'll go into the preferences. We'll go to controllers. I'm going to add a manual controller. I'm just going to call it a MIDI keyboard because I don't want it automatically doing routing. Okay, so now it's working. Lovely. All right, so we have our XY effect. It's sitting here on the track, but I don't want to do that for right now. I'm going to create an effects track, and I'm going to add my XY effect here. First things first, remember that you can always do everything else we've already talked about. So inside of A, if you want to start with an LFO, you could do that. If you want to start with an FX layer, you can do that. And there are no rules. So you can make each one of these 4 slots as complicated or as simple as you want. For right now, let's just make it pretty simple. So in A, I'll go ahead and put in a chorus. Let's just make sure we put this 100%. And I'm just going to test these out to make sure that they sound decent. Okay, that's good enough for me. Let's go ahead and shuffle this over all the way to B, and now we'll add something in B. Okay, so that's not sounding great, but whatever. We're just going to use it for the sake of example. In C, we'll go ahead and drop some kind of distortion in here. Okay, and then in D, we'll put something like a frequency shifter. Okay, we'll do that just like so. Now, the other cool thing about the XY effect is that we can actually map additional parameters in here as we turn either the X or the Y, as we move this guy around here in this grid. So for example, if I want to maybe slightly up the range on this frequency shifter, I guess we'll go the opposite direction, eh? As I move this, you can watch and see what happens, right? You can see how that changes as we move it, which is, you know, pretty cool. Let me actually just lower this down so we're not going to 0. That would not be good. Okay, cool. And then really what I'd probably want to do is map this one the other direction just for fun. All right, awesome. And you can take that as far as you want. You can map those things to as many parameters within this XY effect. We can also add a post effect, which what I would probably do is add some kind of filter at the very end of this. If I'm working as like a DJ, I'd go ahead and just either drop the ladder or the traditional filter in here just to control some things a little bit more. Start with that all the way up, pull the resonance down. And again, what I'd end up doing is probably mapping this to one of my macros and then being able to just pull this guy down when I wanted to. And I could have different dueling filters going on, all sorts of fun stuff. Really, it's up to you how creative you want to be. So now you're wondering, well, I don't want to use my mouse to have to move all of this. So what can I do? Well, there's a few things you can do. Number one is to click on this settings button here, and you can actually map these macros if you want all the way out here. And I'll just do that for the sake of example. So let's go that up to 100. Great. And we'll map the Y all the way up to 100 as well. So now if I turn this off, I should see, uh-oh, that didn't work. We'll go in here and clear it. Maybe for some reason it doesn't want you to be able to do that. What I can do though is I can open these up and I can learn a controller assignment, and I'm just going to spin one of these, and then I'll learn this controller assignment, and I'm going to spin another one of my knobs on my controller. Now if I turn the settings off, I can control this with just 2 knobs, and I'm having to use one hand to do this, which again, you're probably going to want to have 2 hands on deck. But that's really simple and really cool. And then if I want to have control over the filter, I can go ahead, learn controller assignment, set that to another one of my knobs, and now I have control over all of these effects and over a filter. All right, and I'd probably also set this resonance to go up as I'm pulling it down, which I would do a little bit differently. I'd probably use my macro controls. If I really wanted to, I would set a macro control to both pull the cutoff down and drop the resonance up, and then have that all controlled from one knob. But for right now, this is fine. We're not going to worry about it. The other thing we could do is maybe create another effect track and just have some reverb going just so we can get this a little bit wet. And then we'll go ahead and mess around with this quickly. So I apologize for the setup time and sometimes my confusing explanations, but this is part of it. This is how you learn. There's really no other way to do it. So here we go. And what you'd also want is a controller that sets how much this is going to go. Because, you know, in a normal DJ context, you're not going to want something blasting at all times. So I'd probably play back, start to bring it in. And then I could go into my effect here, and I could start messing around. And if I wanted to get crazy, so you can hear just from that little example how absolutely insane you can make things go, and you can take it a lot further than I just did there. But I think the cool part about this XY effect is, as a DJ, if you're willing to spend the time and set up different effects, you could actually do that. And now I believe if you buy Guitar Rig, it comes with all of Traktor's built-in effects. So you could actually layer up Traktor's effects in here and be able to control 4 of them with just 2 knobs or with just a mouse. And you can do it so easily and so quick. It's amazing. And if you set your send level to pre, you can really emphasize the effect by turning down the actual track level itself. Now, in the context of an actual song, you can do the same thing in your arrangement. You can make one of these really complicated XY effects and then just do a little bit of mapping, or you could even set, I think we could do this. Let's see if we can do this real quick. This is going to be just an experiment. And if I set the LFO here and then I drag this into the effects, I wonder if I can set my LFO to control this. Yep. So I could even set my LFO to control the movement of these guys, and it could be independent or not. So again, you can really go absolutely crazy with this. You can even take it so far as having an LFO control the movement of this. You won't actually see the thing moving, which is kind of lame. I hope that they make that so you can see it. But you can tell that there's just so much creative possibility here, so much potential for this XY effect, and I can't wait till some people a lot smarter and a lot more talented than me get their hands on this guy and go crazy with it in live performance, because I think that is where the strength is really going to lie. And also just between, crossfading between different effects. Normally it would take a long time to write in that automation. Now all you have to do is just drag from one point to the other, and of course you can record that in if you want as well. It doesn't just have to be going and doing it in real time. We could hypothetically, I believe, keep clicking the wrong thing, we could set this X location, and we could also set the Y location if we wanted to do that inside of automation. So just so much you can do here, and I hope that this has been somewhat of a help for you guys. I'm sure in the future as we move further in this course, and if I ever just start making some videos about really crazy examples and things you can do, it will be most of the time working with like the XY effect, because this is the beast that can really set Bitwig apart from almost anything else I've ever seen. So thank you so much for watching. Again, hope that was helpful. Sorry if I jumped around a little bit too much. Feel free to blast me in the comments. And until the next video, take care.